What up, YouTube? What about that intro? So nostalgic. Black Ops 2 is the best. Playing some town. And I appreciate clicking. I'm very grateful for you being here. If you guys don't know me, my name is Felipe. I've been running this channel for a couple of weeks now. And today I wanted to talk about some of the biggest money mistakes I've made in terms of playing it too safe. And this may be contrarian to what a lot of people talk about. And we've all heard of the right narrative of investing, right? You buy mutual funds, you're buying bonds, you buy index funds, and you wait until you're 60 to harvest and go and retire and live your life. Gosh, I can't imagine waiting that long, and not because I'm impatient, but because I enjoy doing this. Imagine you don't take any risk throughout your investing, your career, your work life, and you're just stashing money away into an account that might pay off in the future. Like, I've started a couple of businesses now. I used to run a Turo car fleet where I left college and I literally had like 30 grand to my name, 35 grand, not much more than that. And I started a new job and I bought 10 used cars so I could rent it on Turo. And it ended up being one of the best things I've ever done, regardless of, all the bullshit that I had to deal with, which comes in any business. I used to sell shoes when I was in college and in high school. There's always bullshit with everything. But that was one of the best things I've done because I was actually putting my stuff at risk. I was stopped playing the whole, index fund buy and hold until you're 60 game. And it ended up paying off huge. I ended up making a good bit of cash that set me up to build a gnarly foundation now at the age of 25. So I kind of got out of my head there in terms of, play too safe and, wait, you stacks your cash and stay diversified, buy dividend stocks. Gosh, I don't know why I was listening to that kind of mentality, but I just wanted to do something with my life and with my money, start a business, and it was great. And honestly, I encourage you to do as well. Whenever you're younger, just like I was and still am, a couple of years back when I was 18, I was spending all of my money in shoes so I could resell them. I was spending $1,000, $1,500 on Yeezys whenever they would drop, just so I can go and turn them around and make a profit. Right. I mean, like a lot of times I had to stay on the line for like multiple hours a day, or I had to stay on the website for the whole day during Yeezy Day. If those are OG, sneaker sellers, remember that. But it was all worth it because I learned so much about my work ethic, about how to sell stuff, how to market, how to like run a spreadsheet of a P&L. And, the basic stuff that nobody really teaches you unless you go out there and do it. And it's probably one of the better things for you to do when you're younger. Like, yeah, I could have put my $2,000 that I had when I was 18 into an index fund. And then I looked at it now and it's worth like $3,500. What is that going to do for me? Like, whenever you don't have much money and you're trying to play it safe, like, I think this is one of the biggest mistakes. I'm not saying you should go and buy some triple leverage ETF or some triple leverage cryptocurrency or whatever. That's not what I'm trying to advocate. I'm talking about calculated risk. And if there's something that you want to do, maybe you want to start a business on trading cards or Pokemon cards, baseball cards, or maybe you want to sell sneakers. Maybe you want to do real estate. Whatever it is, go and put your money on that. You're going to learn so much about yourself, about business, about other people, how you behave to drawdowns, how you behave to winning. These are all so valuable lessons that you don't get to learn unless you put yourself out there. So back in the day, man, I was building this portfolio. It was a bunch of dividend stocks and mutual funds. And it was honestly an account for like a 60-year-old person. And I was 22 at the time. And it was not it. I was getting like a couple $100 worth of dividends every month. And I thought I was winning. That's just so insane to think about it now. But it always looks good whenever in 2022, for example, there's somewhat of a correction in the market and you feel like you're smart because you're not invested in tech, which took a major correction during that time. And that there's this fallacy, right? Like, you're safe, you're investing into Walmart, in Altria, in SCHD. And don't get me wrong, these are all great companies, and SCHD is a great index fund to invest. But this is for later in the game, guys. You got to start something else. You got to start a Turo business or a sneaker reselling, which is something that you are putting your money on the line, and you have to make it work. Whatever it is for you, for me it was those two, and honestly it just kind of happened. I didn't plan for it. Of course, I did a lot of due diligence and learned the business model, but you just have to go out there and find something that calls you and start that business. Start buying whatever it is for inventory and try to sell it on Facebook. I had this lady come assemble this dresser for me yesterday, and she unfortunately got laid off for her job. She was a news reporter, and she was the sweetest lady. Like, she ended up buying a bunch of this inventory from this Chinese reseller or whatever, and she was selling them on Facebook. And honestly, the thing is pretty decent. It's just like any Walmart piece. It was $220. She came and assembled it for me, and I'm not talking about the price. I'm talking about her initiative to go out there and take a risk. She lost her job. She was like, how am I going to pay for this stuff? She was getting married next month, she was talking about. Insane. But she took a gamble, and it's working out. She now has multiple people on Facebook hitting her up. She's assembling these furniture things and selling them at like $250 a pop. Like, I feel like people like ourselves, we try to like overthink stuff, and you try to make a plan, and you make a business plan, and you have all these spreadsheets, and you watch all these videos, you read a book, but you never take any action. That's like one of the biggest things. And that's like your biggest loss. Trying to like slowly build whatever it is you want to build, instead of just like jumping into the deep end and trying to figure out how to swim. This is the time to do it. Whenever we're in our 20s, this is, the time for you to take risk and start something new. And you might lose, and that's fine. You have so much time to recover from your losses. Like, don't get me wrong, dude. I've bought a car when I was running the Turo fleet that had a blown up transmission. I ended up losing like $2,500. I had to fire sale the thing on Facebook and being like, hey, dude, this transmission's fucked up. Are you cool buying the car? I sold it for like $1,500. I just had to eat that loss. Like, yeah, I could have been a scammer and sold the car for full price, whatever it was, and scammed someone else. But there's something about ethics as well whenever you're doing this kind of stuff, that you shouldn't break, your own kind of beliefs when it comes to this. And the guy that sold me the car, unfortunately, he's kind of not the best dude, and I ended up getting like a messed up car. But that's fine, dude. That's the price of doing business. Out of the like 12, 13 cars that I had one car that was a dud. And that was because the dude was being the scammer. Like, the other cars, I did my due diligence, and I educated myself on how to buy cars. And I wasn't scared of buying cars, because whenever you understand, like, even the basics, you can go out there and kind of understand like where you're looking at. So I feel like a lot of fear whenever you're not doing something is because you're not informed enough in terms of the action that you should take. If fear is like most of the times in the vague. Like, whenever you talk about, what am I fearful of? Oh, I'm fearful of losing all of my money. So, and then you run through backwards, right? Like, how will you lose all of your money? And then you have to get X, Y, and Z to happen. And then you're not going to think about X, Y, and Z happening and still leave your money there. Like, I'm just making an analogy here. Like, for example, my Turo business, for some time I had this risk of, or fear of, all of my cars breaking down and exploding. It's like this irrational fear, because at the end of the day, I was buying used cars. They were like 11 years old, and they were over 100,000 miles. And they were cheap cars. They weren't like, nice Toyotas. They were Kias and Hyundais and Mitsubishis. And I don't know why, but I had this fear. And then I started thinking it through, right? Like, what could go wrong with this car? Like, what could actually go wrong? And then I started thinking like, oh yeah, like maybe this dude gets a flat tire. Maybe the engine is, I don't know, breaks somehow. And then I'm like, how can I work backwards from this and being like, how can I prevent the engine from exploding? Okay, I can do oil changes. I can change the spark plugs. I can keep up with it, And then I'm like, okay, I already do that. So like, why am I so fearful of something that I can't even control? Like, it's just crazy, guys, But going back to our point of like playing it safe, if you have that itch of doing something, I think you should go and do it. Raise your money, whatever you got to do to get into real estate, for example, or start that side hustle. If you want to do a marketing agency, it's super easy to set up. Spend the time learning how to set up instantly and pulling leads on Apollo and marketing that stuff. Dude, it's not that hard. You just got to go out there and do it. And you're going to learn so much about yourself, about business. And it's more about like what you learn throughout this process. And you might not make it big on your first or second or third business. Some people do, but let me be honest, like a lot of people don't. This is probably like business number 8 or 9 that I'm doing. And it's just like, I just do it because I love it. And it's a lot of fun. And of course, I've done well over this last couple of years, and I can complain. I'm very blessed, and I'm in a better situation than I was 5 years ago. But, it's more about not playing it safe, and putting myself out there and buying 10 cars that were like 10 years old with 100,000 miles, or buying a bunch of these shoes that I had no idea like what I was going to do with it, and just having to figure it out whenever I was in high school. Like, dude, that's what it's about. Like, you have to go out there and you learn so much about yourself. And whenever you start a new business, you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from all of the knowledge that you've built from your previous thing. So wanted to do this video on, a lot of people play it safe, dude. They just buy bonds and ETFs, and then they forget to actually like do the thing, to actually run the business or start that idea that they have. And, not everybody's inclined to do it. I understand it. But you learn so much about yourself, and it's so much fun doing it. Like, if you're actually someone who thinks you want to be an entrepreneur and you've never done it, just go and try and do a side hustle and see how you like it. It's stressful. Of course it's stressful. But, like, do you enjoy it? Do you like building? Like, that you reveal a lot more about yourself than the amount of money you're going to make. So I wanted to do this video and encourage you guys to go out there and make something happen, right? Start your side hustle, and don't get too comfortable with your investments, and don't hesitate to take action. There's never a perfect scenario where everything's going to align and the opportunity is going to fall in your lap. You're going to have to create it yourself. So stop, protecting what you've built and start building what you actually want. Like, whenever you get out of this safe, environment of, I'm holding like 50% cash and I'm buying dividend stocks and bonds, you actually start living your life instead of like putting all of your money into someone else's hands where you don't even learn about anything. Like, you literally just click a few buttons and then you call it a day and then expect to have a 10% return. Like, why? I'm not saying this is wrong. Like, there are stages of your life, right, in your investing journey. But if you're someone who's younger, like, just get out there and try something new. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Shared a little bit more about what I think of playing it too safe. If you've made it this far, I want to see you guys win. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Hopefully you enjoyed a little bit of the zombies gameplay. I'll catch you guys soon.